One of the disciplines that I like to maintain as I study the Bible is to understand the whole of a Bible book, like how it fits together. And sometimes also the structure of a passage. And so, there are a lot of tools out there that are helpful for that. You can use Microsoft Word or LibreOffice. BibleArc.com has lots of useful tools, but for creating an outline of a Bible book, uh, I struggled to find a good tool, so I've used Claude Code to create a browser extension for Chrome or Brave. And this browser extension I've called Bible Outliner. And this extension is a simple little tool that adds a little side pane in your browser to allow you to create Bible outlines. And I'm going to go ahead and show you, first of all, how to install this extension and then some of the features. So first of all, you go to the link in the description of this video at github.com to the Bible Outliner releases page, and you find the most recent release. You download the source code, in this case, a zip file, and then go ahead and unzip that file. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open your extensions page in Chrome. That's Chrome colon 2 / extensions. And then in order to install it, you have to click on developer mode in the upper right corner. And that will allow you to install an extension that's unpacked. So you click on the left side of the top, you click load unpacked. And then you find the place where you, excuse me, where you unzipped that file. You double click on the folder and then you click select, and then the extension should be installed. Now, what I recommend, one of the features of this tool is that it works with several Bible reading websites like stepbible.com or bible.com or Bible Gateway or Parabible. It works best with those first three. But the next thing you do after you open a Bible page, you can pin that extension to your browser. And when you first open it, it's going to create a backup automatically. And I've probably already enabled this, but you have to kind of tell it that you'd allow it to have access to your hard drive. But all it will ask for is access to your downloads folder. So the backups go to the downloads folder. Now there are different kinds of backups you can do, and in this video I'm just going to introduce a traditional kind of Roman numeral, A1, traditional hierarchical backup. And you can do this a number of ways. There's 2 ways to create a heading. Now, first of all, let me show you the feature. You can import an example. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the Jonah outline that I created just to show you what the outline looks like. So I'm going to scroll down on my Bible book chooser. I'm going to pick Jonah. Now you can see I've got 2 levels of headings. I've divided the book into 2 sections. The first one, Jonah and the sailors, from chapter 1, chapter 2, and then Jonah and the Ninevites in chapter 3 and chapter 4. And then I've given a heading to each of those sections, like each of the little episodes in the narrative. So God gives Jonah a mission in verses 1 and 2 of chapter 1, and then again in verses 1 and 2 of chapter 3. And you see what it's created is it's created a hierarchical outline. Now, once I have this outline, I can export it to various formats. Like I can copy it to the clipboard, or I can export it as various formats, Markdown, HTML, probably more formats than most people would want. But let's say I just export it as a PDF, then you can see how it creates a PDF outline that then I can reuse for teaching or from some other purpose. So that was my main goal, was to be able to create outlines, save them, and use them elsewhere. Now let me show you how you actually create an outline, because there are 2 ways. We've already looked at Jonah, but let's go to Genesis 1. Genesis 1, we know that the first creation account begins in 1 verse 1. Now what we can do is we can click on Add Heading, And at 1 verse 1, heading level H1, everything's good. So I'm going to call it the prologue, the creation of heaven and earth, not hearth, earth. Okay, so I save that, and what it does is it calculates the verse range from the verse that you start your heading until the next heading, or to the end of the book. And obviously, we're going to have more than that in the book of Genesis. In fact, when we go to chapter 2 in Genesis, we see that these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. We have that first occurrence of what they call the Toledot structure, the Toledot, which is a Hebrew word that's translated in English. These are the generations is how we translate it. So if I want to add a heading, I can do that. I click add heading, and it's going to be at the highest level. And I'm going to call this Toledot 1, the generations of the heaven and the earth. So I save that heading, and so now we have two sections. And obviously, I made a mistake. I forgot to add the correct verses in here, the chapter and verse. It's chapter 2, verse 4. So if I fix that, then the verse range gets generated correctly. Now we could go through the whole book of Genesis and include all 10 Toledot sections, but I want to go back to chapter 1. So I click on the prologue one, and that will open, in the Step Bible, it will open Genesis chapter 1, because it jumps to where this verse reference is. Now let's say what I want to do is I want to add some more headings, but I don't want to do it. I want to be able to have that verse, chapter and verse filled in. So if I hover on this verse number, you can see a little button that shows up on top, plus heading. So I click on that, and it's filled in 1 verse 1. And I want to choose H2 because I'm going to call this the sort of a summary in 1 verse 1. Now, the next thing is in verse 2, the earth was without form and void. And in Hebrew, this is actually background information. So I want to click on this heading, and I'm going to say H2, and then I'm going to say this is the initial state of creation at the beginning of the 7 days. And I click on non-outline item, and now I'm going to call this, I'm going to label it background. And what this is going to do, and I save the heading, it's going to set it off visually as background information. Now the next thing I could do is I can go through all the different days. So I click on the chapter 1, verse 3. Again, this is a second level heading. I'm going to call this day 1 just for simplicity. And you can see it goes from 1:3 to 2:3. But obviously day 1 begins day 2 begins in verse 6. And so we're going to click on this, H2, day 2. And we can do that all the way. We have to do day 3. Oops. So Step Bible has these tooltips that can get in the way, but you can navigate around them. Day 3. Now we're going to look for day 4 in verse 14. Obviously, we can add more information if we want to. I'm just trying to create a very simple outline. Day 5 begins in verse 20. Level 2. Now day 6 begins in verse 24. And then finally, day 7 begins in chapter 2, verse 1. And if I were doing a more serious outline, I would add a little bit more information. But you can see now I have an outline. Now I can go into deeper levels of the outline. But this is just to show you the basic features of this little browser extension. Now there are a few things that are worth mentioning in general. You can change the color scheme of the interface. You can change the heading colors if you want to have it all kind of all different shades of red. You can do that. You can also set it up to connect to Google Drive. So I'll tell you more about that, about backing up, in another video. But this is just a video to introduce the basic features of this tool. Now, if I want to export to use it, I have multiple choices. I can export my entire outline of the whole Bible, or I can choose the current book only. So just for simplicity, I'm going to do that. I export it as PDF, and now you can see the outline that I've created. Obviously, I have a lot more to go with Genesis, but this is the beginning. So that's Bible Outliner. Go ahead and download it and test it, and give me feedback through the. I'll give you a link to give feedback in the video description. So thanks for watching.